I stared at the same task on my to-do list for 3 weeks. Every single day I'd see the task, I feel my stomach drop, and honestly, I just push it to tomorrow. With only 2 weeks left before the deadline, I started panicking. Then I asked myself one simple question, and everything changed. The entire project was eventually done, and I even had 2 days to spare after it was all done. Today, I want to show you what that question is and how it helped me break that cycle of procrastination. Let's get into it. So, here's what's happening. I have this complex work project, and there was a process that I needed to follow. The only issue is it was so unclear. There was no clarity in terms of the instructions of how to do this. Every time I thought about the project and the process, my brain would just freeze. You know that feeling where you have a big task to do and it's unclear and you just rather do nothing. You literally just do nothing because it's so overwhelming. But deadlines have a funny way of getting us to sort of take action. With 2 weeks left on the clock, I knew I couldn't avoid it anymore. So I stopped trying to figure out the entire project and asked myself something different, something that changed my entire approach to overwhelming tasks. And the crazy part is, this isn't just a productivity hack. It's actually backed by a project management science. I'm a project manager, so I know, and behavioral psychology as well. Today, I'm breaking down exactly how to tackle any overwhelming goal without freezing up. The first thing we need to address here is the procrastination paralysis. Big tasks, of course, feel scary because we skip the first logical step and try to see the entire path at once. For me, every morning I'd open my task manager and there it was, the single, I just didn't know what to do. But because there was no templates and instructions and nobody had explained it and I had trying to find information, I couldn't get the right information. My brain just didn't know what to do. So I just kept putting it off. And that's usually how it works when there's a big task that you can't figure out. Because you can't figure it out, you just sort of put it off. But the issue there is you can't make any progress until you take that action, until you take the steps to sort of get through those tasks. This procrastination paralysis, it sort of feels like standing at the bottom of a mountain and it's thick fog and you can't see the top of the mountain, but you can see the path and you can barely see maybe 10 feet in front of you. So you don't take a single step. But here's the thing. You don't need to see the top of the mountain to start walking. You just need to take steps. You just need to take the first step and the next step and the step after that, and eventually you get to the top. But if you never get to that top unless you actually start taking the steps. The second thing I wanted to point out is the question, and that question is simply this. What's the smallest first step I can take to get this done? In my example, I had 2 weeks left. Yes, deadline, the pressure of a deadline. So instead of asking, how do I complete this entire process? I just asked myself, okay, what's the tiniest first step I can take right now to make some progress? And the answer hit me immediately. I needed to just ask somebody who had gone through the process. So right there and then, I messaged one of my colleagues and I was like, hey, I'm trying to do this. I believe you went through the process a couple of months ago. What was it like? And long story short, she sort of walked me through what she did. And right there and then, I had clarity. There's a saying that goes something like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time? Hopefully, that's the only way you're going to get an elephant. If anybody's trying to eat elephants, I don't know why you do that, but I digress. The point is, if a goal overwhelms you, you haven't just simply identified the first step. Not the second step, not the master plan, just the first step. I'm reminded of a quote that talks about how the secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking down complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks, and then starting on the first one. That's by Mark Twain, by the way. The other aspect of this entire discovery of mine was, as a project manager, there's a template, a process, a structure we use called work breakdown structures. And essentially what it is it helps us sort of break down our huge projects into goals and milestones, and then further into tasks and steps that need to be accomplished, right? So the overwhelming project that you have, you take that and it becomes a single sort of series of steps that need to be taken, right? So let me give you an example of what that would look like in a real life scenario in our personal lives. For instance, let's say your overwhelming project is that you want to launch a YouTube channel, right? So project is launch YouTube channel. So what are the goals that you have? You need to set up a channel on YouTube. That means you have to create an account on Google, set up a YouTube channel. You need to create your first video, develop script for that, develop content strategy. Those are those are goals that you need to accomplish, right? But what are the tasks that need to be done? For instance, for creating that first video, that first goal, you need to choose a topic. You need to write a script. You need to record footage. You need to edit the video. You need to create a thumbnail. You need to publish. Now, those are the tasks. What are the steps to get those tasks done? You review YouTube search trends to sort of figure out, oh, what could be a good topic to discuss in that video. You list three topics that you're knowledgeable about, and you maybe even pick one that you're more excited about. Suddenly, launch a YouTube channel. The overwhelming goal becomes 15 minutes of YouTube search trends. Which one feels more doable? If you look at it from the perspective of, I have to take a step right now, does launch a YouTube channel or research YouTube trends and sort of figure out a topic, doesn't that feel more doable? That's the point of all of this. It's that you break down the tasks that you have into smaller, achievable steps. That's the advantage of breaking tasks down. But I want to highlight three more sort of things that this also helps you do. One of the first outcome that I'd like to highlight of when you decide to break down an overwhelming task into sort of simpler, more manageable steps is you gain momentum. You know, in my example, right after I texted my colleague and got some clarity, that was win number one. So during that call, I took notes, of course, and by the time the call was done, I knew exactly what to do next. And that momentum eventually snowballed into other steps and other actions that needed to be taken, right? So that essentially that first step led to a series of other steps, which eventually led to me achieving the goal that I had set out to do anyways. This is like, this gaining momentum is like pushing a car. The hardest part I don't know if you've ever had to push a car, but back home in Nigeria, I did this a couple of times. If you had to push a car, the hardest part was to just get the car moving from rest. Once you got it moving, once it started rolling even slightly, it got easier to push. Your tasks work the same way. The first step is always the hardest, but after each step, it gets progressively easier. All right, outcome number two, confidence. You gain confidence. After every finished task, it proves to you that you can do hard things. And you sort of gain that sense of pride of, I'm killing this, I'm doing this. For instance, in my example, after I had that call with my colleague, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I got this. I can do this. Why was I so scared initially? Each small win gives you feedback, and that feedback is letting me know that you're capable and you got this. And that builds confidence. So confidence isn't built by just like positive affirmations. It's built by evidence. You have to let yourself know that you can do what you're saying you can do. And the only way you can let yourself know that is by doing it, right? So the third outcome that I wanted to point out when you break your warming goals into sort of smaller steps and manageable tasks is that you gain so much more clarity. There's the mental fog that you deal with when you're dealing with an overwhelming goal, an overwhelming task, a huge goal, a huge task. But by identifying that first step, you start to gain much more clarity that helps you understand that this thing that was once overwhelming is now achievable. Like maybe you genuinely felt initially that you couldn't do it, but after you break it down and you start taking action, it feels possible. It feels probable. So progress creates clarity. What feels impossible all of a sudden now has to feel possible. And you can't see the whole path from the bottom of the mountain, like we said at the beginning of this video. But after you climb 100 feet, you can suddenly see the next 200 feet and the next 300 as you progress. Clarity comes through movement and not just planning. You have to take action. Speaking about action, here's an action plan for you. If you're like me and you have or had an overwhelming task and you're sort of trying to figure out, okay, about what are the action steps? What's the action plan for me? How can I use this today? This is step one. I want you to find identify one overwhelming task. Look at your to-do list right now. There's something there that's probably been sitting there for a couple of weeks that you've kept pushing. Pick one. We're just going to pick one for the purpose of this exercise. Step 2, I want you to ask yourself the question: what's the smallest step I can take today? Not tomorrow, not next week, not whenever I have time. I'm talking about today. What's the smallest step I can take today to get this started? And it has to be small enough that you can't make any excuses. We're talking 5 to 10 minutes max. We're talking low effort step, so that way you can't be like, oh, this first step is too big, I can't even do that. If the first step still seems a little bit too big, you need to find something else. Now, next step, step 3, is I want you to do that one thing, not the whole project. I'm just saying commit to taking that first step you identified. And step 4, I want you to repeat tomorrow. After you complete step 1, ask the question again: what's the smallest next step I can take? So, after you've done step 1, after you've identified that step for your goal, ask yourself, what's the next step? And just to get you thinking, here are a couple of examples of first steps that you can take. For instance, the overwhelming task might be you want to launch a business. And the first step might be just Google business name ideas for 10 minutes. An overwhelming task might be you want to write a book. The first step in that case might be just write 3 potential titles. An overwhelming task might be you want to get in shape. The first step might be, how about you just try to find a workout routine? And an overwhelming step might be you want to learn how to program, how to code. Our first step might be just watching a 10-minute intro video tutorial on the world of coding. The idea is that the first step you should take is simple and small enough. That's really what gets the momentum going here. First steps are very easy to skip. You can watch this video, you feel motivated, and maybe you even identify that first step, and then life happens, something happens, you get distracted, and then you push the task again from this week to next week. And this is essentially why I'm making you this offer. So I want you to leave a comment below with, number 1, your overwhelming task, number 2, the smallest first step you want to take, and number 3, when you're committing to do that first step, not the entire goal, not the entire project, that first step alone. So number 1, I want you to leave your overwhelming task. Number 2, your smallest first step. And number 3, commit to when you're doing it. And I want you to write that as number 3 in the comments. Accountability works. Having someone expect you to follow through changes your approach and your sort of sense of responsibility, right? For me, that accountability was, now once I had messaged my colleague, it was a matter of time before she asked, hey, how's it going? And at that point, I couldn't be like, oh, I didn't do anything, right? So accountability works. And definitely this is something that I want us to do together. So here are the takeaways from this entire process and from this entire video. Big tasks will always feel scary because we skip identifying the first logical step. The breakthrough question is, what's the smallest first step I can take today? I want you to use the work breakdown structure to break down the huge overwhelming goals that you have into your first step. Breaking them down creates momentum, it helps you build confidence, and it provides clarity on your goals. You don't need to see the whole path, just the next step. And the last thing that I want to leave you with today is that action will always beat planning every single time. You gain confidence from doing and clarity from doing what you said you would do. So remember, keep asking yourself, what's the smallest, tiniest step I can take today? Then do it. Commit to doing it. Just that one thing. Everything else will follow. Don't forget to put that comment in the comment section, letting me know about your overwhelming task, the step that you're going to take and when you plan to do it. And I'll see you on the next one. Till then, keep building.